Hello, I'm Kristen from Kristen Cain Style. Welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. I'm a style and mindset coach, and I can help you create a wardrobe you love wearing. My clients love how they look and feel in their clothing. I do work one-on-one with clients, both in person and online. Style therapy is the way that I do that. There is a link down below with all the details. And if you would like to book a free consult call, I do a 1-hour free consult call where we do a little exercise and get really clear on what your actual style struggles are and why you haven't resolved them on your own yet. And sometimes this is a little bit different than what women think they're struggling with. Like when we do this work and we do this little exercise, what comes up is often something different than what they might have thought. And so it's always, and the consult itself is always an interesting experience. And whether or not we choose to work together moving forward, whether you book style therapy, my goal is that the consult helps open your eyes a little bit to what the actual problem is and helps you to see how your mindset is involved in the struggle that you're having and how you might be able to begin to change that. So the work that I do is twofold. It is, on one hand, very classic personal stylist. I understand style and shapes and silhouettes and how to build outfits and how to declutter closets and organize them and where to shop and how to pack and how to dress for a special occasion and what shoes go with what and what hemlines and all of that stuff. And even more importantly, I feel I come at it from a mindset standpoint. I help the women I work with, and hopefully you here, and those of you who followed me over on Instagram, my goal is to show up in service of really getting you curious about what's happening in your thoughts and the feelings that those thoughts create and the actions that you take from those feelings, and how that is creating the result that you're not loving in your wardrobe. If there is something bugging you about your style, when we work together, we trace it back to what the thoughts and beliefs and feelings are that are surrounding that, and it makes it really easy to change, is the reason that I do this. First of all, it fascinates me. I love knowing how we think and how we're in control of our thoughts, and we can change our thoughts and therefore change our lives in any area, not just style. I just happen to come at it from a style standpoint because my history and my experience is 20 years in retail and in closets and fitting rooms, working with women to really love how they look and feel when they get dressed. And so the mindset piece is just like the missing piece of the puzzle, because I was working with clients and they were getting results, but they weren't lasting. The transformation wasn't sticking long term because we weren't addressing the thoughts that were still on loop, on repeat in their minds. And if those looping thoughts are negative and are driving the ultimate actions and behavior and result, creating the results, then it doesn't matter how many new clothes you have. It doesn't matter how cleaned up your closet is or how organized or how many outfits we've created. Eventually it is going to loop right back to the old way because our brains want to keep us safe. And while it seems absurd that something like getting dressed and shopping for clothing and editing our wardrobe could be in any way dangerous or could trigger the response in our brain to put on the brakes and create resistance so that we don't go any further with it because it's not safe, while that seems absurd, that's exactly what's happening. So all that to say that I come from style, I come at style from the standpoint of it's really important what you're thinking about your wardrobe and your body and your clothing and your budget and all the things that are related to getting dressed. And it is also important to really know the tools and the strategies and the techniques for creating a wardrobe you love. I do all of that. So style therapy, if you want more info, it's linked down below. Today, I'm going to talk about a topic that is super important. I've recently kind of started pulling topics from comments that I'm getting either on here or on Instagram or from clients in person or in emails. I'm pulling recurring themes and trying to really coach to those limiting beliefs or those areas of resistance so that you can begin to create change in your own life. And while I'm going to use a very specific example from someone in, as the kind of topic for today, I have heard this topic, this same situation in many, many, many different ways, even in my own life. And I'll share a little more about that as we go. So I'm going to use one example, one kind of quote that that someone shared with me. But understand that what's most personal is most universal. And so if one person had the courage to write this information to me and share this information with me, there are countless others who are feeling some version of the same thing. And I know this from work with clients and having them, share actually that with me also. So we're going to talk about love and loving your wardrobe. So I'm going to first read what was shared with me. I don't love anything I own. I can't remember loving anything since I was a young woman. There is always something wrong with what I'm wearing. I've gotten used to this over the years. Loving my clothing is a foreign concept to me. Now I'm just going to pause for a minute and be completely honest and tell you that even reading that out loud chokes me up. That breaks my heart, and it is part of the reason that I do what I do, because that is not how I believe anyone should feel when it's time to get dressed, regardless of their life circumstance, their body, their age, their budget, their personal sense of style, where they live, what they do for a living. There is not any reason that that is how someone should feel. And I applaud the person who wrote this for feeling brave enough to actually share how you're feeling. Because as I said a second ago, what is most personal is most universal. And if one person is thinking and feeling this way, there are dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of others who are also feeling this. I hear from a lot of women that they don't know what they love. They don't actually love anything in their wardrobe, and they've accepted that. They don't think that it's possible for them to really love how they look and feel and what they're wearing. This is a tender topic, and it's painful for me to think about this, both because I love this world so much. I love this world of style and of using your clothing to express who you are, and of being allowed to wear whatever you want that feels most authentic and lights you up. I love all of that. And I also have my own personal history with not loving things in my life and really struggling to even get a glimpse of what I might love. And so I feel this, and I want to speak to this because I think it's important, and I think there are ways to begin healing this type of a situation. So I'll mention just quickly that I, just as one example, I can remember maybe 6 years ago, I'll say, I was in the grocery store shopping as I normally do, for the week. And when I got to the checkout, there was a young man who was probably in his late 20s, friendly, kind, good customer service, jovial. And he asked what I was going to do for fun that weekend. It must have been a Friday or a Thursday when I was shopping. And he asked, what are you going to do for fun this weekend? And I really paused, and almost instantly I could feel myself starting to get emotional. I could feel my eyes hot and, tears forming. And I thought, I don't know that I'm not doing anything fun. And I don't even know what fun would be. I can't even conjure what something would be that would be fun, because at that time, the idea of having fun was so foreign to me for so many reasons that this man just touched on something that, kind of triggered something deep in me, that my life was not fun, and I was not seeking fun. I was not trying to resolve it. I was just going through the motions, and I was not having any fun. And so I made something up, that I was going to spend the weekend with my husband and my kids, which I was, but I wasn't seeing that as fun even. And it stuck with me. It's been many years. I've referred to it, different times over the years in different situations. But I really was aware in a new way when that young man asked me what I was going to do for fun for the weekend, that I really was not having any fun. And I couldn't even imagine what fun would feel like or look like or how to get there. And so I feel like this is a similar topic, that if, the idea is you don't love anything that you wear, and loving your clothing is a foreign concept to you, and that you can't remember loving anything since you were a young woman, that's how I felt in that grocery line with regards to fun. And I want to try to help begin to have you heal that, like to offer you suggestions and ways and ideas for maybe beginning to turn that in a different direction, because I just fully believe that everyone deserves to have clothing that lights them up, clothing that makes them feel better, not worse. So in this specific case, if this is something that you can relate to, I would ask, in this specific case, when you were a young woman, what clothing did you love then? And describe it. And what did you love about it? And so if your situation is not that you were a young woman, but it was a different type of situation or a different time, ask yourself, when was there a time that I loved something that I was wearing? I loved a piece of clothing in my wardrobe. I loved how I looked and felt in it. And what piece was it? And describe the piece and describe what your thoughts were about it and your feelings were about it. Conjure that back up. Go there. Go to that place or that time or that outfit or that situation where you loved how you look and felt in your clothing. And it's not that I want you to wear those same pieces again. It's not that if it was some sort of a beautiful floral nightgown that you had when you were 9, it's not that I think we ought to recreate your wardrobe based on that floral nightgown. It's just that we want to get clear on what were you thinking and feeling in that floral nightgown. And I say that because I had a floral nightgown somewhere around age 9 that I absolutely loved, and I felt absolutely beautiful in that nightgown. I mean, just to the point where I was unstoppable. It just changed my whole persona when I wore it. And if I were to get clear on how I felt and what I thought, I could recreate that on a piece of paper. I could not draw the nightgown, but I could recreate, well, I felt really beautiful and I felt abundant. It felt like it was special. The fabric felt like it was high quality, and it made me feel pretty and important and special, or whatever the feelings were, that I would come up with. So I would do that. I would get clear on the time in your life or the circumstance or the occasion or the outfit or the piece that you loved. When you can think back to that, at whatever age that was, whatever the situation was, what were the thoughts that you were thinking about that piece? Conjure that up, and what were the feelings that you felt? And then I would go a little deeper and I would do a little bit of a thought download and a brainstorm on what changed. What between that stage and now feels like the biggest kind of moments or shifts or problems or things that arose that took you from being in a place where you loved something that you were wearing to this place where you are now, where loving your clothing is a foreign concept. And it could be a financial situation that changed, and now your budget is very different and limited, and you don't feel like you can buy the kinds of clothing that you really would like to wear. It could be that your body has changed due to some life circumstance, having children. It could be that your circumstance has changed in that you are no longer married, or you're not happily married. It could be that you are lonely, that some circumstance that you really don't like your job. What has changed? What about your circumstance now feels really negative and feels like it could be a contributing factor to what's happening in your wardrobe and the fact that you're not loving any of your clothing? And then I would urge you to approach this with grace and tenderness towards yourself, because it's likely that if you don't love any of your clothing and you can't even imagine loving your clothing, and you have resigned yourself and accepted the fact that that's just how it is, there is probably going to be some discomfort in uncovering this and kind of looking at it a little more closely, that it will probably bring up some feelings that are not very pleasant and that could be painful and could, bring up some emotion. And allow that. It's fine. The healing happens when we feel the emotion, and we can then feel it all the way through and allow it to be released. And so I would spend a little bit of time really feeling the feelings that come up, feeling the sadness, feeling the anger, feeling the frustration, feeling the disappointment, whatever the feelings are that are attached to, loving your clothing at one time, having that shift for whatever reason, so that now you have resigned yourself to the fact that you just simply don't love your clothes and that that's a foreign concept. My guess is that if you really allow yourself to go there, that is going to tap into some things that feel pretty uncomfortable. And that's okay, because that awareness and that courage to go there is what's going to open up the space for you to change this and actually learn what you love again and start to bring some of that into your wardrobe and into your life. And I would keep in mind that our brains like safety. I mention this here often. Our brain's most important job is to keep us alive. And so when our brain senses danger in any capacity, it doesn't really discern between a saber-toothed tiger and going to the mall and not finding anything you love, or wearing something you like and having someone make fun of you, or having a wardrobe you love in the midst of a time when there's something really painful that happens, so that clothing and this circumstance are then connected somehow. Your brain can't differentiate between that. So it thinks that anything that feels dangerous or scary or like it would be putting you in harm's way should be avoided. And so if on some level, some part of loving your wardrobe brings up pain, then of course your brain does not want you to solve this problem, because its job is to keep you safe. And even though safe doesn't feel good to your brain, that's a win. The fact that your brain is not allowing you to change means it's doing its job. So it doesn't care that you're not happy or that you're not loving your wardrobe. It cares that it's not allowing you to do anything that could be risky. And in this case, learning to love your wardrobe and uncovering what's beneath that and why you don't and how you could begin to shift it feels really scary to your brain. It might feel really scary to you also. Your pulse might quicken, you might get short of breath, your face might get red, your hands might get sweaty when you even consider trying to find something you love to wear. And that's all okay. It's all okay. It's exactly what our brains are supposed to do. We are learning a new way. We are creating a new neural pathway. This is practice. It takes repetition, and it takes the desire to continue doing it until we build the self-trust and create the safety so that our brain knows, you know what, it's okay to let her explore loving a piece in her wardrobe. That's okay. That's not going to hurt her. And so as you kind of proceed, if you're still with me and this is something you want to explore in your own life, I would start by looking around your life, at other areas of your life besides style, and identify something you love. So again, I would get a blank piece of paper because I'm big on writing things down. I like the hand-eye, connection where the brain and the mind and the hand, where all of that gets connected. So that seeps in deeper for me than typing it or than just thinking it, but whatever seems like it would work for you. What do you love in any area of your life? Do you love pink peonies? Do you love blue skies? Do you love a good book? Do you love a hot cup of tea? Do you love your children? Do you love your dog? Do you love the color blue? What do you love? Because my guess is, even through the pain or the discomfort or the frustration or the sadness, there is something that you love. And so I would begin to make a list of things you love. And I have done this at different periods in my life where I was having a hard time either being grateful or finding joy. And so a simple list, even on your fingers, if not on paper, kind of to run through some things that you really love, it actually sparks, some joy, even just that simple act. When I think about, I love sunflowers, I love pink peonies, I love a bright blue sky, I love the sound of the ocean, I love palm trees, I love the color blue. I love my kids. I love warm sand on my feet. There are things that I can conjure immediately, that make me feel, they boost my mood instantly. And so they have nothing to do with style, but they shift the energy so that if you are thinking about the things that you actually do love, it starts to signal to your brain, well, loving these things feels safe. So it's possible that you could love a piece in your wardrobe as much as you love pink peonies. Again, it's kind of a bridge. I've talked here before about bridge thoughts and, kind of closing that gap between the negative thought that you're having and the positive thought that you want. And so if you can conjure some love for something non-clothing related, identify even one thing that you love, a warm slice of apple pie with ice cream, one thing that you love, pay attention to that feeling. How do you feel when you think of that thing you love or that person you love? What is that feeling? Because it is possible to have that same feeling get dropped into your wardrobe and be transposed and kind of, have the filter on your wardrobe be that same feeling, so that you can begin to feel love for your wardrobe and not be stuck in this is just how it is. It's been this way for years. I've accepted it. And the next thing I would do, once you have kind of identified that idea of, okay, I love this thing, and when I think about it and I talk about it, or I even just write down the word, or I picture it with my eyes closed, I feel a certain way. I can feel something waking up in my body that connects loving something to a feeling, the love of seeing the ocean, or for me, seeing the Eiffel Tower. Like it makes me just buzz with warmth and joy to think of those things that I love that are not clothing related. But once I know that I can feel that, it makes it more possible to actually feel that way about a sweater or a pair of jeans or a pair of shoes. And so I would assess what's currently in your wardrobe, and I would go through your wardrobe and look at it from as neutral a lens as you can, without the stories and the negativity that you might feel toward the pieces. And I would really just seek out whatever feels better than everything else. Like my dream would be that you could go in there and find one or two things that you actually do love, but they've just been kind of clouded and covered up with all of this emotion. But if you can't find anything you love in your wardrobe, I would go for just what do you like better than pretty much everything else? What pieces are, make your mood a little bit better when you wear it? What piece do you like to put on more than the rest of the pieces? So it doesn't have to be, I love this more than anything, it's my favorite thing ever. But which piece, my guess is out of your entire wardrobe, there is a piece or two that you like better. That if if you were told to go put on your favorite thing in your wardrobe, there would be a piece or two that you would identify as the things you like better than the others. I would go to those pieces. I would pull out those pieces and I would get a little bit of clarity on what do you like about them? Why are they better than the others? Is it the cut? Is it the color? Is it the way they fit your body? Is it the fabric? What is it about that piece that makes it slightly better than the others? And then if you're willing to go a step further, I would start to get curious. And again, reminding your brain that it's safe. I'm not going to do anything wild here. It doesn't mean I'm going to love my whole wardrobe. I'm just going to get curious and I'm going to explore the possibility that I could find something I love with regards to clothing. And whether it's on Pinterest, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's with people you know or on television shows, start to kind of open your mind to the fact that there is probably something out there in the world of style that you could love. That it isn't probably true that you just absolutely don't love anything about any style, vintage, thrifted, modern day, couture, like that there's just not a piece of clothing on the planet right this minute that you could possibly love. That is probably not true. Probably what has happened is, as I said before, the limiting beliefs and the past circumstances have created a lot of evidence in your brain that it is just not possible for you to love your clothing. And that, I would venture to guess, is not actually factual. It's just you have a lot of history and a lot of evidence that feels like it proves that. And so you've just kind of given up at that point, understandably. So I would start to get curious. Spend 5 minutes a day on Pinterest, poking around, looking at things that you like. Not things that you would buy necessarily, not things that you think you would look amazing in, but start to exercise that muscle of, I love that. I love that color. I love that shape. I love that texture. I love that sweater. I love the way those jeans look. Start to practice and really exercise that muscle of being okay with loving something and having it be safe so that you're building the self-trust that is, if I love something, it doesn't mean something bad's going to happen. If I love a sweater on Pinterest, it doesn't mean that, I can't have it. It doesn't mean that I can't afford it. It doesn't mean that I can't wear it. There's still a separation there. You're just learning to identify something that you think you might love or you might love the look of, even if you don't know if you're going to love it on your body yet. Baby steps, one step at a time. And this also isn't permanent. You can decide you love it today, and 2 months from now, as you continue to exercise this muscle and you continue to grow your self-trust and your self-image and your belief in this work, you can change your mind. You can say, well, I thought I loved royal blue sweaters, but now I realize I actually like a more French blue or a paler blue or a deeper navy. It doesn't mean that if you decide you love it, you have to love it forever. We're building a muscle. We're experimenting with thinking of things that you love, and you can change your mind. And then if you're willing to go one step further, I would go to some sort of a store and I would try on clothing. Does not matter where it is. It can be resale, it can be Target, it can be Old Navy, it can be H&M, it can be a department store, it can be a super high-end department store or a boutique. I would go in and start to try on some clothing. Look at it as, I've talked about it before here, sort of a style field trip. And go into the stores and try things on. It doesn't mean you need to buy a single thing. It doesn't mean you need to love anything, but start to allow yourself to explore, what could I love? If I were willing, and I can speak to this from a lack standpoint, because I spent way too long looking at pretty much every area of my life with a very thick lack lens over my eyes, not physically over my eyes, but in the way, mentally. There were some big financial situations that happened in my family about 10 years ago, and it pretty much derailed us. And it was very difficult to move through it and navigate it and heal from it and, deal with the triggers and deal with the trauma. And there are days it still shows up for me. And so For me, it was always a financial situation that I would want to love something, but the lack would always get in the way, and I couldn't imagine how I could afford it. I couldn't imagine being able to afford it. I felt inferior because I couldn't afford it. I felt like, where I was shopping didn't have the pieces and the quality that I wanted. And the experiment, I can remember going to Barney's with Matthew in Las Vegas. We were there for work for him, and I tagged along, and we went into Barney's, and we were both trying on clothes, but at this specific moment, I was trying on some pieces that I was just, falling in love with. I was allowing myself to dream big and to imagine the possibility of being able to afford these pieces. And I tried on a beautiful cashmere sweater from the Row, and it was about $1,200, and I still would not spend $1,200 on a sweater. But I remember thinking at the time, you're allowed to be in this sweater. You're allowed to love how it looks and feels. You're allowed to decide that it's not in alignment with what you want to spend your money on right now. And it's okay. It's showing you a possibility. It's showing you an option. There are people who buy $1,200 sweaters on a daily basis. So it's not that it's unattainable for everyone. It's not even that it's unattainable for me. It's just that I was so used to looking at it through the lack lens and looking only at the sales section and buying the piece that was okay, but I didn't really love because it was a lower price. And in that moment, at that instance in Barney's, I really realized that I could see it differently if I wanted to. I could be open to the idea that I could try on a beautiful piece and I could choose not to buy it, but I could allow that possibility in. And so this is the same thing. Allow yourself to consider the possibility of putting on a piece of clothing that you might love. And you might have to do this shopping field trip 2 or 3 or 4 times before you actually land on a piece you love. My guess is it won't take that long, and it will go faster the less resistance you have. So the more open you are to the idea that I could actually find a piece I love, doesn't mean I'm gonna buy it, doesn't mean I'm gonna wear it, but there is a possibility that when I go today and try on clothing, I will find a piece that I actually love. For me, this often happens with dresses. I don't wear a lot of dresses in my life, but I love a beautiful dress. And so I often will try on dresses. I don't need them, I don't buy them. I like to try them on because they feel pretty and they feel flowy and twirly, and it's sort of a fantasy life thing. Like, there will be a time where I'm ready to buy dresses again, but for the most part, I don't wear dresses that often, but trying them on gives me joy. There is something I love about trying on a beautiful dress and appreciating the fit and the swirl and the vibe of a beautiful dress. And so I would go try on clothing, and I would not stop, no matter how long it takes, how many outings it takes. I would not stop until you try on a piece and look in the mirror and light up. And I know this specific circumstance, this moment when this happens, because I have worked 20 years in closets and fitting rooms, and I have seen it hundreds, if not thousands, probably thousands of times. When a woman puts on a piece that she loves, she lights up. Her energy changes, the way she stands changes, the way she smiles changes, the way she moves changes. Everything about her energy and her vibe instantly shifts in a very tangible way so that anybody in the room can see it. She has landed on a piece that feels authentic and fabulous. Whether she actually wants to own it, whether it serves a purpose in her wardrobe, whether it's within her budget, is irrelevant. She has found that there is something that she can love in style, and she can find a modification. If it's a dress, she could find a blouse that makes her feel that way. If it's a pair of jeans that she won't wear because they're too distressed, she could find a similar version that doesn't have the distressing. It's just that there are pieces out there that will light you up. So in the case of trying to bring loving your clothing back into your orbit, I would just keep trying on pieces until you land on a piece you love. And understand that there will likely be some resistance, as I have mentioned, and that you might even feel a little bit of irritation towards yourself or towards the garment or the store or the sales clerk who is helping you or who is there when this is happening. Because if you have built up this identity as someone who just doesn't love anything you wear, it is possible that when you tap into that, oh my gosh, this sweater, I think I might love it, your brain is going to put on the brakes and it is going to say, this is not safe. It is not safe to love this sweater. Get it off, put it back, get out of this store. This is, danger. Like, the lights are flashing and the flags are flying, the red flags are flying. It is very possible that that will happen, and it's okay. Recognize that that is totally okay. You are building a new pathway in your brain. You are reassuring your mind that it is totally okay for you to fall in love with your clothing again, regardless of what the past circumstances are. And then I would just keep practicing and building that muscle. I would find a piece you love at a store and maybe walk away from it, and I would continue to build a Pinterest board or tear out pictures from magazines of things you think you could love. I would continue to make lists on a daily basis of things that you love that have nothing to do with clothing, so that you can exercise the muscle of loving something and really bring up the feelings of, gosh, I'm all tingly when I think of pink peonies, or when I think of blue skies, or when I think of a beautiful pine tree covered with snow. Whatever those things are for you that conjure up that kind of warm, fuzzy, bubbly, tingly, whatever it is for you, whatever that feeling is that you connect with love, start to exercise that muscle, start to practice that, start to reassure your brain by practicing it that it is totally safe to feel love, and it is totally safe to feel love around your clothing. And then little by little begin to bring in pieces you love. And you will see when you wear those pieces how radically different you feel, how much better you feel. And there's a ripple effect, because when you start to wear a piece you love, regularly, the day that you wear that piece feels different than the days that you're in the pieces that you have resigned to just not ever loving. And slowly, I'm not suggesting you get rid of everything in your closet and start fresh. Slowly, you will begin to build a wardrobe of pieces you love. And that will feel better than the resistance and the wall and the, kind of the barrier that you've built up against loving your clothing. I respect the fact that whatever the reasons are very valid, and that the evidence that your brain has is probably quite a big pile and very secure, as far as your brain is concerned. And I believe that can be unwound, and it can be relearned and retrained so that loving your clothing feels safe, and it feels not only safe, but actually deserved, that you really start to understand that you are worthy of loving the clothing in your wardrobe. Doesn't mean it needs to be expensive. It doesn't mean there needs to be tons of it. It's just that you are deserving of a piece or 2 or 10 or 20 that you actually love wearing, that is not off limits for you. It is not impossible for you or out of reach. It might feel like it right now, but there is a way to begin unwinding that and create safety around loving your clothing. And I would love to hear if you try this, and if you take these steps and begin to rebuild your relationship with loving your clothing. I would love to hear how it goes. And if you have questions along the way, please feel free to ask. This is an important topic to me. As I said in the beginning, I feel the tenderness and the pain here, and I have felt similar things in my own life, and I want women to look and feel amazing and to have permission to love their clothing, whatever their style, whatever's authentic. We deserve that. Clothing is meant to be fun. Yes, we have to have our bodies covered, but we're allowed to have that be an expression of who we are and an extension of who we are and how we show up in the world. I hope that is helpful. As I said, if the person who asked the question originally or anyone else has questions about this or would like me to go further or deeper or different, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know. I will be back next Friday with another video. And on Tuesdays, I do a live on Instagram style Q&A every Tuesday at noon Mountain Time. And if you can't join live, they are always recorded, and then the replay is posted in my feed over there. It's at Kristen Cain Style. And you can drop your question down below. Just please indicate with me either hashtag Instagram or this is for the Q&A. Let me know that that's where you'd like me to answer it, because I can certainly do that. And I also put up a question box over the weekend so that you could ask the question there if that's convenient. And style therapy, if you want to kind of dig into this stuff, like my clients come to me, these are the limiting beliefs that we uncover when I work one-on-one with clients, where they really bring up things that they didn't even realize were what was affecting the situation with their wardrobe. They bring that up to the surface, and then we can really begin to peel back the layers and uncover it and heal it and move past it and release it, so that getting dressed can be fun and you can look and feel amazing in your clothing. So if you'd like my help with that, style therapy is my one-on-one package, and the link is down below. It'll give you all the details, and we can hop on a consult call and see if we're a good fit. I hope you have a really beautiful week, and I'll see you next Friday. Thanks for being here.